just quickly to introduce myself, my name is Sarah Andrews. I am an ex-Escape student. I graduated in May, so I was part of the first lot of undergraduates. Woohoo! And I was an animation student, so afterwards I suppose I can answer any questions about the animation course that you have. And this was our final year kind of joint discipline project with the visual effects guys. So our project was called Jerich0. I'm going to play you the short film now, and then I will post a link to it later in case it doesn't work properly. So I'll just play it in here. The brief for the short was to create a 1-minute short film incorporating 3D assets into filmed live-action plates. And I believe that is still the current brief that they give the third years when they start this project. It's the very first brief that you will do at the start of your third year. And it involves all 3 of the visual effects classes. So 2D compositing, 3D visual effects, and the animation class. And you work with Clement Guarini, and he has a professional camera setup. You can search his name online, and you film in a location, and you try and put your character and your story in that place for real. So we have 12 weeks, 12 people, and you need to make a good story. And obviously you want to get out of it an award-winning short film, but this big mess in the middle is known as the visual effects and animation pipeline. And sometimes it can really be a big mess like that, let's be honest. So here's the team, very briefly. Myself, I'm in the middle. That's me. It's an old picture, but I was the director, so I came up with the idea and I wrote the story, and I had to be in charge of all these lovely people. I've also got Aaron with me. He's sitting in the background, so if you have any questions that I think he could probably deal with better, I'll get him to come forward. And then we've had all the rest of these guys here. They're off doing some fantastic things now. So Matthew works for Framestore, Alan works for ILM, Caitlin works for Union Visual Effects, and we've got 3 of these guys on the MA at Escape, and Harrison is at the National Film and Television School, just to name a few places. So our idea for this project: a lonely robot finds a blueprint and attempts to build himself a friend. Very simple. So just a story of friendship. Jerich0, here he is. There's a little bit of character design. So for those of you guys who were asking about it earlier, this is the kind of character design you get to do. So it's not too complex, but it's not nothing. You will get to do some character design in your projects. Jerich0, why is he a lizard? Well, the extended brief said it had to be a robot or a creature, because human characters are very hard to blend seamlessly into live action plates because Uncanny Valley, which is something you've probably heard of. So we chose to do a lizard through a process of kind of trial and error of throwing random character on the design ideas out there and seeing what stuck. And for some reason, everybody really liked the ideas in a little cute gecko. So that's what we went with. And here are some like early character design ideas. Some of them by me, some of them by other team members. That was kind of the idea we settled on. And then we also had the robot friend. Now for the robot, he was designed to be less appealing and more sort of what can you build out of useless scrap parts that you find on a workbench, you know? The blueprint here at the side is kind of like the idealistic, futuristic looking robot. And what we actually make looks like a pile of garbage, really, but it's the thought that counts, not what he actually looks like, you know? So here's the storyboarding. So I actually chose storyboarding as a specialism during my time at Escape. Storyboarding was quite an important part of being able to do any animation, as Mike has already touched on. So this was a particularly difficult area, as you had to fit an entire narrative into 1 minute, which sounds like a long time, but when you're actually trying to cover it, it's no time at all. Really isn't. So you can see down there the storyboards are playing. We tried to really stick to beats of 3, so like 3 things happen to him, or he finds 3 objects and then carries on. That was the best way we found to do it. So lots of ideas got cut on the way to this. This is like the final version. I think there were 9 different versions of the animatic by the time we got to this point. So, and the animatic there is pretty true to what we ended up with at the end. For the music, which you may or may not have heard, depending on whether the sound worked, we worked with Alexandra Hallwood, who is a BAFTA award-winning composer. She's also one of our team members' mum, so that's why we were able to get her to work with us. And she worked very closely with making sure that the film had the right feel. We gave her WALL-E, the Pixar. Is it Pixar? Yeah, it's Pixar. Okay, we gave her that as reference and said, oh, we want something that sounds kind of cutesy, like WALL-E, that will fit thematically and be original for us. So, and really, I can tell you that good animation will get you so far with these kind of short films, but having music to back you up is probably the best way you can go about this, because the soundtrack is really what is our key selling point of the film. So yes, filming. We filmed inside our producer's flat. So it was a bit of a tight squeeze. You can't really tell from this, but we had to demolish his partner's desk and put a load of tools and rubbish in there. We spent about 2 hours building this set, and we used plastic toys, so that plastic lizard that's crawling around on the screen pulled by a piece of string, to kind of get an idea on what the film was going to look like before we actually shot it for real. We had 4 hours with Clement and his cameras turned up. And again, that sounds like a lot of time, but when you're trying to film these shots and do 3 or 4 takes a time, it's really not a lot of time at all. So 4 hours to cram all that filming in. We had a priority of what shots we really needed and what shots we could bin if we didn't have enough time. So it was a real long process. I'll just say that. So yeah, Jerich0, the model, was actually created specifically for the project by Piraveen, one of our 3D artists. I should make that video loop. So yeah, he was built from scratch off of tons of reference of geckos and lizards, and he was textured in Substance Painter, modeled in ZBrush and Maya, and then rigged with advanced skeleton and with lots of help from Michael, who has spoken to you already. So yeah, that's the kind of character design and character creation you can do on these UG courses. Even though it's not specifically tailored to it, you do it. So don't worry. And the eyes were made in After Effects. So whoever was asking about motion graphics earlier, there's your motion graphics and how it ties in with this kind of stuff. The eyes technically count as motion graphics. Yeah, there he is. We had lots of color variations as well. Obviously, we went for this lovely cockroach brown, as I heard someone call it. I like it. I think it's cute. And it was my decision at the end of the day, being director. But yeah, we had like psychedelic colors going on for a while. And thematically, we just didn't think it worked with the kind of rustic vibe we wanted from the story. So the robot, again, the kind of turntable going on here. The robot was modeled modularly, piece by piece. So Harrison, who was in charge of making this model, would model bits at a time and then stick them together to see how he looked. So rather than having a set character design to go off straight off the bat, it was model a piece, attach it together, see if we like it, go from there. So there's like tons of leg and arm variations that did not make it into the final film, but believe me, there were a lot of them. And I think he was very annoyed at me at the time for asking for so many variations. And then set population. So if I send you the link later, go back and look in the film and see how many things are in there that you think are fake, because there's so many little tiny screws and screwdrivers and stuff that really don't exist, you know. And it was a lot of work trying to get all those tiny little models done, detailed in the scene. So here's just an example of a few of them here, and that's what they look like. That's what the scene looked like on the plates. You can see all the green spots, maybe, where the motion trackers are. And then underneath, you see they've all gone. They've been painted out by expert comp artists. And it looks really nice. So here are some shot breakdowns from the actual film itself. So this particular one is from Daniel, who was our editor and one of our animators. So I just bring it back to the beginning. You can see how a shot goes from storyboards through to reference and then through the different stages of animation. So first you will block something out to just put it in its key poses so we know where it wants to sit on the screen. And then it will go into smoothing where you add the physics and the detailing. So you notice he's got weight when he pulls on the screwdriver. And then obviously it goes through rendering. It looks beautiful. And this is what it looks like when the comp artists get it and they perform all sorts of magic just to make it look beautiful. Like that. Lovely. So again, a different shot. So this is Aaron's shot. I don't know if he wants to say anything specific about it, but he had to use a motion spiral when you were animating this. He did a curve around the pole to make the character follow a certain trajectory to spin around it. And while it looks nice and easy, it's really not. There's a lot of work that goes into these things. And a lot of this pole itself was actually faked. See? Yes, yeah, it's also not a shot. It really is confusing when we tell some people that. The camera when we filmed it was static, completely static. And all of this motion is completely faked in Nuke, which is a compositing software package. Didn't really get touched on today. But yeah, it doesn't really move. So it was all trickery and fakery. I'm sorry. Yeah, again, you see how it goes from storyboard to reference and then through blocking and animation. So this is the very final shot on Jerich0, and it's 14 seconds long. Again, this was Aaron's work. So this was the heaviest shot in the entire thing, and it took a lot of patience to animate fully, to get the expression. When you're working with two non-organic characters, it's really important that the audience can relate to them and, feel the emotional connection. And then the compositing here, which was done by Matthew, with the light, with the bulb and without the bulb, and how the glow gets added. It was very, very complicated work, this one. No. Yeah, it was very difficult to get the correct emotion and acting in the shot. This took a long time, and there's very minimal subtle movements in the arms and stuff with the swing that you really don't notice until you've stared at it for 12 weeks with no break. So yeah, there's that shot. And then obviously not all is smooth sailing when it comes to actually making a project like this. We had a lot of problems when we came to rendering stuff out. We had fuzziness, we had bulbs breaking. Sometimes Jerich0 would leave his legs behind, and that's not fun, or things would vibrate for no reason. And I'm sure Michael can attest to, we had whole rooms taken over in the college just rendering frames of stuff. And although it's amusing to look back at now, at the time, the time crunch and everything, it was like so stressful. But it really does test your troubleshooting ability. And this is the kind of thing that, like, you won't just get spoon-fed everything. If you make a mistake or if there's a problem, you have to work it out, use your initiative to fix it. Tutors are always on hand to help you, but they also encourage you to, like, figure it out yourself. I won't speak too much in this one for fear of angering anyone else, all the tutors, because I don't know specifically. But this is just the different render passes that comp artists stick through Nuke to make it look beautiful. The most important are just the bottom one, which diffuse, the specular, and the emission, which deal with color and lighting and emissive light to make it all look beautiful when it comes out of that. If I had a comp artist here, they would be able to talk about it, but I'm sorry, I can't. So production, this wonderful looking gray box on the side is something called Shotgun, and it's an industry standard piece of software or like application that helps you track all of your shots and things like that through the production process. And you can assign work. So I used this quite a lot to track like the process of what was happening and whereabouts everybody was in the chat, and see like what was happening with everyone's work. It was really annoying for everyone else, I imagine, because I was constantly looking over their shoulder going, why haven't you finished that yet? It was due 2 days ago, etc. So I'm sure that it was annoying at the time, but in hindsight we got it finished, so positives and negatives. And then we also used Google Docs, good old Google Docs, for just keeping track of stuff in a more colorful way than Shotgun. So this was how our producer Matt kept us all on task and made us a little bit happier if we had a rainbow to look at rather than just dots and squares. And then you can see here, this is kind of notes we would give where I would say bring up a specular or bring up a reflection and bring down a shadow or improve a track, stuff like that. That's the kind of thing you have to do when you have to be in charge of a team like this. You kind of learn on the job, and I didn't say at the time that I really enjoyed it, but in hindsight, I probably had a bit of a power trip while I was doing it and enjoyed being able to tell people what to do. Not that that's the point, but if you want it a certain way, you have to be authoritative and tell people how you want it. I think this is probably the slide that everybody wants me to talk about more than anything else. So the success that you can get through doing these short films is amazing. So we've won all of, how many is that? 8 things now, I think. 8 different prizes. Plus, we've been involved with the BAFTA Student Film Awards and BFI. We actually went to the BFI and did a presentation. I've got some pictures of it. We took part in the Rookies, which are a big thing to try and get your work out there and noticed in the industry. So we've had a lot of success with this film that was at the time unthinkable. When you're producing something like this, you just think, oh, I'll do it for the grade. No one will ever see it. But then it ended up going really big. And if anyone watches the CG Bros channel on YouTube, which is a good place to get see lots of short films produced by students, we're also on there. We've been picked up by that. I wrote an article for the Rookies blog. I don't know if it's up yet, but we've been included in all sorts of great things just because of this little tiny film that we made. And it's amazing. This is the kind of opportunities that you can get from being at Escape. Here's the BFI. So we went with another team. There's another short film from our year called Home Sweet Home. I suggest you go and watch it after this day is all said and done, because it's really good as well. And they've also had great success. So both of our teams were selected, and we went along to the BFI and we did a talk with Justin Johnson, who is this man up here, and he asked us questions. And it was a family screening, so there were lots of kids around. And a lot of parents after the fact would come up to us and say, oh, my kid's really interested in doing film now because of this. They want to know more about how they can get involved in animation, you know? So that was a really lovely experience for us. So where are we going from here? So I don't know how many the staff actually are even aware of this because it's been pretty hush-hush. But we were actually selected for Animation Production Days, APD, which is a thing that takes place in Germany, in Stuttgart. Obviously not this year, bearing in mind what's happened with coronavirus. But this APD is an opportunity for us to take Jerich0 and pitch it as a short series for kids. So to pitch it as a TV program. That's the kind of way that Escape wants to push you. They want you to make the best out of everything that you do. So this has been really encouraging to get this kind of response. So hopefully we'll know more about what's happening with APD once all this coronavirus business is said and done. But this is something that we will be doing in the future. So if you keep an eye on the animation blog that Michael showed you earlier, I'm sure that you'll get to see progress we make on this. Aaron works on the John Lewis advert last year with the dragon. He animated the shot where Olaf the snowman melted, so he upset all of the children in the nation by melting Olaf. And he also did some of the little ITV end cards for programs and stuff like that. And then if anyone remembers the space selfie campaign by Samsung, where the space selfie machine actually crashed, he also animated and did the previs for the advert for that. So he's worked for NVIS and Untold currently. Matthew, who was our producer and one of our comp artists, works at Framestore. He is currently a roto prep artist and maybe production assistant as well. I'm not sure what's happening with that at the moment. But he's worked on Wonder Woman, Lady and the Tramp, James Bond, Doolittle, Kingsman. This is the kind of opportunities you get afterwards. And then the MAs. So Daniel, Piravine, and Callum, who are two of the 3D artists and one of the animators, are now working on the MA at Escape, where they're making a video game. So if anyone's interested in that kind of side of it, you can follow them on Twitter at Novum. But I'll post a link to that so you can keep up to date with their video game, essentially. And they're making it. They're trying to make a video game or like a level demo for a video game, and it's really cool. Some of the stuff that they've shared with me, and I'm sharing with you. So that's what you can do further on from this. So thank you for listening to me. Blathering on about this. So if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. If not, I'll let whoever wants to take over after me take over. But just to mention again, these are some other films that you should really go and watch. I think they're all on the Escape YouTube channels, maybe on the Escape blog as well, and you can go and watch them. There's Home Sweet Home, which I mentioned earlier, which was our sister film, if you think about it like that. They were made at the same time of us. They've also had great festival success. Minuet, which was my final year project, which was made in Unreal. Offcut, March of the Popguns, Draw, and Joe were the year below ours. So this current set of third years, there was their kind of projects. So I suggest you go and watch them because they're all really fantastic this year. Yeah, I'll post all the links to them in the... Oh, I've got some questions. What was the biggest challenge and how did we get over it? Ooh, biggest challenge for this. The biggest challenge was trying to get it all done within that 12 weeks because really it sounds like a lot of time, 3 months, but it's really not a lot of time, especially when you've got to go through every single stage of production and make it all look good and achievable in that time. It's very difficult. So that was probably the biggest challenge. And staying on top of people. That was my, if you're going to be a director on these projects, and you may get the opportunity if you come to Escape to direct a project of your own and stuff like that. If you're in charge of people and they're looking at you, it's about learning how to balance out being authoritative, but also not being mean to people, and how to put your vision out there as a group, not just take over in what people are trying to do. What are my own influences of faith and emotions? Oh, well, I like a bit of Disney. I heard everybody enjoying Disney Plus at the moment with their being stuck inside, nothing much else to do. I really like Ghibli films as well. I love stuff like that. But probably what would I say was my favorite film? Oh yeah, Treasure Planet. Love a bit of Treasure Planet. That's my favorite. That's where all the robots and the stuff comes from. Treasure Planet is the best, and I won't hear anything else. Probably should mention as well, I work at Escape now. I am a studio assistant. I don't think any of the tutors have touched upon the existence of us, so I will mention now. Every class that you are in will also have a studio assistant to kind of work alongside the tutor. So while the tutor teaches, they'll be running around the back of the room trying to save you from your various technical difficulties and things like that. So I work with and I'm an animation studio assistant, but I also work with the short courses and stuff like that. So I work with character design, 2D animation, storyboarding, previs, those kind of things. So that's what I do. Did you know what you wanted to do on a day one of the course? Did you gradually realize? When I started the course, I knew I wanted to be involved in animation somehow, but I wasn't sure what I was good at, if that makes sense. So like, don't be afraid of applying if you just think that you like it, you know? You'll find out what you're definitely good at when you start. So I found out that while I'm not maybe the strongest technical animator, I'm quite good at the concept art, at the storyboarding, at planning something out and how that works. But yeah, that's how I kind of gradually realized over time. So yeah.
Sarah, thanks very much for that. I mean, if we could give you a cyber round of applause, we would. That was really useful to sort of see that journey you went on. And you know, it's very hard for people to sort of understand how, you know, teams might work, especially if you're coming, you know, in from a course where you haven't had much experience with teams, and to see what you folks achieved, as you say, in 12 weeks is amazing. So I'm really glad you've shown that, and hopefully sort of people have got a really strong idea now of, like, you know, what Escape is all about. So thank you.